Hey guys, welcome to the next vlog of our Marvel-Thon series. At the time that we made this video, or these next couple videos, is just a few days after Stan Lee sadly passed away, and just like the rest of you guys, we are very bummed about it, to say the least. I mean, I can't speak so much for Bizarro Critic here, because he's been like a 10 times, 100 times bigger comic book fan than I ever was. But even for me, having loved superheroes for many years, it's just a major blow to me as well. I just can't believe he's gone, and we hope his family, his friends, and of course all the fans give their best wishes and give their best tributes and all. Any quick words before we get started on the next review?
Yeah, now when it comes to Stan Lee, the one thing I'm definitely gonna miss from this guy, and I've shared the story tons of times, and it's a real quick one. Amazing Spider-Man issue 96 was a very interesting story to me. Not the story itself, but the story behind the story, which was Stan was getting told by the Comic Code Authority he could not print it, and he said no, I'm going to do this anyway. He printed the story anyway, and that's what I liked about Stan, that he was always able to fight for his stories. He would never give up on them. And that was a story that I actually had Stan sign and stuff, and actually getting to meet Stan Lee was really amazing. He was a really cool guy. He was always nice to people. I wish I could say he gave me some great words of wisdom, but he didn't. I just said hi. He said hi back, and I thanked him for just being himself. And he probably heard that before, but yeah, Stan Lee is a guy that I don't think we'll ever really be able to top. I don't think there'll ever be a guy like Stan who is that committed to the work. Like, even at 95, he was still writing stuff. But yeah, with Stan Lee, I can just say the dude really was a true believer, and it is saddening to know that he's gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great man.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get started, we're finishing off the Iron Man movies with some pizza. Very much how we started. And I'm going to give the spotlight to Bizarro Critic in a sec here, because what the hell is this? Is this seriously how we're ending the solo Iron Man films? Is with this fucking shit? I mean, I will say right now it is very good overall. That's saying a lot.
It could mediocre to you.
Somehow, well, not really, that's the big irony, but somehow I think he likes it even less than I do. But in this little get-together we're having today, we're going to be making the Iron Man 3 vlog along with Thor 2 and Captain America 2, which I'm going to provide the spotlight for, since I did not do so in the first Thor movie or first Captain America movie. So yep. He has the honor of finishing off Iron Man 3, the Iron Man Trilogy. So
yep.
And he didn't think much highly of Iron Man 2 in the first place. So this should be fun for him.
So yeah, let's talk about this film real quick.
Here you go.
So the film starts off in a way that almost, which I think this film actually was the one to truly kick off how Marvel movies would open. With a classic song, because
I'm Blue by Eiffel 65, if I'm saying that correctly, Eiffel or whatever.
Yeah,
at a New Year's Eve party in 1999.
Yeah, in 1999, and I will say it's an interesting thing about that scene is that there's actually that besides that we meet Yinsen, which is a good moment of continuity because Yinsen at one point did say that he met Tony Stark before. We also meet this Heart Doctor who apparently had a bigger role in the Chinese cut, because this was also around the time where they were actually doing some stuff more for the Chinese audience. I've never seen the Chinese cut, so I don't really know how extensive this character was, but the Heart Doctor in there did play a big part. then while this is going on, Tony, by the way, is like been narrating the event, talking about how he created his own demons, which actually really fits Tony Stark's character. Tony Stark's been known to like cause his own demons. The previous Iron Man films have also shown that as well. And after Tony hooks up with this hot scientist lady, who is trying to develop a self-regenerating program into organic material, it explodes. Happy shows up, looking like a reject from Pulp Fiction. Yeah, totally did. Tony, he sleeps with her. He gives the equation of what he needs to do. And before that happened, we meet. We freaking meet. I can't believe this is how he's introduced. I know what they're doing with this, but that's just so freaking bad. And that was.
I thought you forgot his name.
What?
I thought you forgot his name.
Well, I don't really care too much, but his name's Killian, and Killian, how he's introduced is. He's like, hi Tony, I'm just like, oh my god, don't do this. I know I know what they're doing here, where he's trying to be the stereotypical nerd, and that's how we saw nerds in the 90s, but my god, just stop talking. I was like, dude, just stop, man. It's embarrassing. I think that's the point of it, though, but still, it just was so weird. But yeah, Tony says, I'll talk to you on the roof. He never shows up. And, after that, we fast forward to Tony Stark. And, it's Christmas time! Because technically this is technically considered a Christmas movie. Which I will give this film, believe it or not, yes, people do consider it a Christmas movie. I will say it's interesting because not that many superheroes actually dive into the holiday season. The last one, only two I could think of. One being, both being Batman films. Batman Returns, which took place around the Christmas season, and then Batman Forever, which took place during Halloween, or at least the finale took place on Halloween. So we have those moments, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, he's setting up his new armor, which is design-wise, I think it's supposed to be inspired by the Bleeding Edge design. Just with more.
Speaking of which, did he inject himself with something?
He did. Not inject himself, but he implanted these little nanites, little robots, which I guess work like magnets, which is able to just send in the armor to him and stuff. Which is why he's doing all these Power Ranger moves. Let's face it, him doing this, or I'm just expecting him to talk about how he needs Megazord power right now. But yeah, he shows off the new armor. The new armor's design is kind of meh to me. I just feel a little bit too much gold, more red to it. But again, it's supposed to be based off the Bleeding Edge design, which is really cool because I thought Bleeding Edge was actually very interesting. That none of us really, unfortunately didn't get too into until I think the end of Matt Fraction's run. But that's a whole story right there. But yeah, so while that's been going on, Rhodey's got a paint job. He is now the Iron Patriot, which I don't know why the hell he's Iron Patriot. Brief backstory. What?
Norman Osborn would be jealous.
Yeah. Brief backstory of the Iron Patriot concept is that Iron Patriot was a moniker created by Norman Osborn, which, if you remember, Norman Osborn is the crazy green guy with the glider, usually.
The Green Goblin!
Yeah, he becomes this guy called the Iron Patriot, and he's using that to kind of mess with people's, mess with people and stuff, and, take advantage of their patriotism and stuff. So he goes by Iron Patriot. But yeah, in this one, Rhodey's now Iron Patriot, and, Tony Stark is obviously ragging, because he's like, that's a dumbass name, why are you calling yourself Iron Patriot? We also get more into the media because, we even get, actual talk shows even discussing Iron Patriot. And even some of the talk shows are saying that's a dumbass thing to do. Meanwhile, Pepper is doing her thing because, as we recall, Pepper got promoted to being, in charge of Stark Industries when Tony's not around, which has been a lot lately. And, she ends up meeting up with, Killing. And pretty much, his introduction is kind of like the obvious, like, oh, I used to be a nerd, but now I'm freaking, like, hot attractive and everyone wants me and, like, I'm showing off and shit. And for some reason, I don't know why the fuck we decided to put this in here, they knew each other from high school. We really needed to do that. We needed them to know each other from high school.
I thought she said that they used to work together and he used to ask her out all the time.
Okay, if that's like, it's been a mind you, I did not get to watch this movie like I did the other films where I got to refresh it, but if that is the case, that's still pretty bad to do. Like, really, we need to have it like, oh, they have a history and stuff. Like, no, just don't do that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he shows off his new invention, which is called Extremis, which in the comics it used to be called Extremis, but now everyone's calling it Extremis now. And I'll say that it does work very similar to the one from the comics, though not to the completion of it. There's a whole cocoon thing that they used to do, but that's not a thing anymore. Also, it was much more gruesome when it was unstable. But yeah, he shows it off, and he pulls out a whole like, oh, we're not using the full power of our brains type of thing, which every movie has been doing. But yeah, while that's going on, Happy gets to do some shit, which is kind of funny because this is the first film that Jon Favreau himself is not directing, and this is the time where his character gets to do more.
Some guy named Shane Black directs this. Meanwhile, Happy's all like, that fucking badge. The badge.
Yeah, well, he's trying to
Respect
show
the
off
badge.
and stuff, and he's even calling Tony, being like, hey, this guy is like showing off his big brain and stuff, and he calls he's trying to like show Tony that he's important too and stuff. It's like, shit's going on while you're hanging out with the freaking Super Friends, because yes, Avengers do play off at this point. Afterwards, we get into something that I will say is probably the best part of the film, and that is Tony's PTSD. After the events of Avengers, Tony's been suffering nightmares and having problems sleeping because of the events of Avengers when he went into space and he threw the nuke. So,
And he even subconsciously or unconsciously activates the Iron Man armors, which almost kills Pepper.
yeah, so he's just freaking out, and yeah, he just doesn't want to admit that something's wrong. He's having panic attacks, and I will say that's actually very accurate how panic attacks work. I've actually had panic attacks before, and honestly, yeah, sometimes I would not want to admit that I had a panic attack. I would sometimes lie and say that, oh, I'm fine, and just try to brush it off. But yeah, it's not great. It's a pretty intense situation when you go through that. And I will say how they handled it, for the most part, I'll get into that later, that it was actually done pretty well, and I like that. And again, it does dive into the whole Tony Stark has inner demons, and he always has a battle within.
Yeah.
Then while that's been going on, a new terrorist has shown up, being the Mandarin.
The big one. Iron Man's ultimate arch nemesis.
Yep.
Where there's Spider-Man, there's a Green Goblin. Where there's X-Men, there's a Magneto, which is how I pronounce it, instead of Magneto. For Superman, there's Lex Luthor, so on and so forth. For Iron Man, there's the fucking Mandarin.
Yep.
So he finally comes into play.
Yeah, he finally comes into play, and when you first meet him, he's actually pretty good.
He's kind of terrifying per se. I mean that in the best sense of the word.
Yeah, he's doing
those messages, those propaganda messages.
Yeah, the propagandas are really creepy and they're really good. And pretty much, he's there's these explosions, and he's saying, and he actually compares it to actual events in history. And while that's going on, we also have this weird bald guy who I actually had to look up who the hell this guy was, if he was someone from the comics. Apparently in the comics it's a guy called Cold Blood.
Yeah, that's somewhere.
Yeah, his name's Cold Blood in the comics. But he does nothing like his comic book counterpart. So I'm not even going to get into what his comic book counterpart's like. So he's pretty much giving this weird syringe to these different guys. And one guy who's asking for it, takes it. Happy's been spying on him, and then he sees what the dude's up to, The guy injects himself. He's freaking the fuck out. He's glowing. You know, he's screaming for help. And then like Happy, out of some miracle, and look, I like again, it's a great scene where like just showing how dangerous these guys are. Where the dude just fucking explodes and vaporizes everyone. My question is how the hell did Happy not get vaporized? Like, I know he was behind something, but like, I don't feel like it would give him enough cover to protect him the way it did. Like, he should still be dead. But yeah, like then that happened. But yeah, Happy's now hospitalized. Tony's pissed off. He goes on live television, tells him where he lives, which I don't feel like is a big surprise. I feel like anyone would know where he lives anyway.
That was a big plot hole that hit me almost immediately, even before I refreshed myself with this shit, and one which fucking Doug Walker and other people should have catch on. Doesn't everybody know where he lives?
Yeah, like
every fucking Iron Man 2, they had a party there. They had dozens of party guests who now know 100% for sure where the fuck Tony Stark lives.
Even if it's the whole, even if it's the whole, he's not thinking straight, so he's like saying this stuff because like he just wants to clarify this is where I live.
Mr. Stark, we know where you live. You have parties there every fucking weekend.
Yeah.
He just goes away.
I will say, like, you know, it's still a good moment right there because it does show that Tony is becoming really irrational and he's not thinking clearly, and Pepper calls him out on this. While this is going on, the scientist lady, I'm sorry, I do not remember her name.
Maya Hansen. Was she a character from the comics? That's what I want to know.
Like, it's been a while, because, like, there's so many Iron Man comics that go on. But I don't recall, I think she was a character from the comics, but I don't know how big her character was. I could be wrong, because again, it's been a while since I watched, because it takes a lot of elements from the Extremis arc. So I do not know how far that really, how far her character went if she was there.
She's portrayed by the great Rebecca Hall. Rebecca Hall's a really good actress and doesn't get enough credit.
And the first thing that she does when she sees Tony is, and I love this scene, I really do love this joke where Tony's like, please tell me there's not a 12-year-old in the car waiting for me. He's 11. He's like, I'm like, that's actually pretty funny, and it made me think about this as a comic book fan because this is around the time where a lot of superheroes were being seen as were becoming parents. Like Wolverine had Wolverine found out that he had not just 2 but several fucking children. A lot of them went to hell. Then we got like, you know, Captain America who became an adopted father, which ended tragically. And then we got like Hulk who has like 2 kids. Like a lot of superheroes were becoming kids at the time, so I'm surprised that out of all of them, the dude who fucked so much did not have a child. But whatever. She tells him that, you know, they need some help and stuff at AIM, which is the name of the company that they created, which is really cool because this is the first time we were introduced to AIM. The only time we ever saw AIM associated with a cinematic universe was the X-Men game. I think it was X-Men 2.
And the Iron Man game. They were the main antagonists for
for
the majority of the game. So like when I first saw this back in the day, I'm like, well, clearly they're ignoring the fucking games. Clearly the games are not canon.
The games to me are never canon. Like the only time the games were ever canon were like the few times the games were ever canon were in X-Men 3 the game, where it was a prequel to X-Men 3 and explained why Nightcrawler's not around and what the fuck happened.
And AIM, to my understanding, I think I know enough, was basically a major terrorist organization.
Advanced Idea Mechanics, they're a scientist organization, they run, they have many leaders, and a lot of fans were disappointed, including myself, because there were so many leaders that AIM has had in the past, where like, you know, we've had the Scientist Supreme, we've also had MODOK, the biggest one of all, and we were hoping to see MODOK, but he never shows up. We don't even get a reference to MODOK, which really sucks. But yeah, like we just have this whole thing where like she wants help from Tony, while Pepper's telling Tony to leave, and like they have a big fight. There's a big rabbit. Not really that important about the big rabbit. And then, you know, the helicopters come in, they attack Tony Stark's place, Tony Stark. And this is a really great scene of Tony Stark having to, like, rush to save Pepper while also trying to save himself. And then he gets pinned down and, like, you know, he finally, and it looks like he's dead until he finally flies out of there and he lands in where was it again? It was
Tennessee, because before Maya arrived, he was doing a sort of crime scene investigation, Arkham style.
Oh
Arkham
yeah,
game style.
Arkham Origins, be more precise. That was more like Arkham Origins to me.
And they set coordinates for Tennessee, and at the end of the attack, which almost completely destroys the mansion, Tony is unconscious while he's inside the Iron Man armor, and Jarvis wakes him up saying, "Sir, we're low on power, and we're just approaching Tennessee. We're just approaching this town in Tennessee where this terrorist attack occurred with this soldier."
Yeah,
the bald man. I forget, something Davis.
I just call him Cold Blood because again they didn't say his name that much, and honestly, that name was so ridiculous. I just had to call him that after there. I know that's not his. I know they don't call him that.
I think his first name is Chad or something. But anyway, he loses power and he arrives in the town, leaves a message for Pepper on his little cell phone at the helmet at home.
And
then
we have that great scene of him just dragging the armor through the snow. And I love the fact, and it gets to the point where, like, it is, again, this is a very well done scene where he's talking to Jarvis, and Jarvis is losing power, you know, and he eventually just starts shutting down. He needs to go to a sleep system, and Tony's just like, he doesn't want to be alone. He's scared, and it's just very well done. Eventually, he runs into this little kid, which everyone this is something that everyone was a little afraid of because they were worried they were going to have like this little kid character who would stick around for no reason, and Tony Stark's going to have to be like super nice to him. But no, Tony Stark's still a dick to this kid, which I'm like, yes, this is still Tony Stark. Tony Stark is not like nice to people all the time. Like, he's very blunt with people, and this little kid, he does try to help Tony Stark out by he's letting Tony Stark use his garage and stuff to help fix up the armor, while also, letting him know what's been going on in the town. Because, in the town there was an explosion there, and she said, and the kid's been told, and everyone's been told that the guy who caused the explosion, he made a bomb. But, Tony would later find out that, he didn't make the bomb, he is the bomb. And
it is watching that scene again where with the shadows. That was a really tragically beautiful scene, and the way that the kid Harley describes it is like the shadows are of those who are going to heaven, but not that guy. That guy went to hell.
Yeah.
And I think Tony said something like, "How could he go if he was still alive?" or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and then we have.
Let me check my Dora watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot the Dora.
Anyway, go on.
It's weird because
Keep
Disney
going.
owned them. It's weird. Disney
Keep
owned them.
going.
They're from Nickelodeon. But yeah, so the kid is. After Tony starts doing some investigation, one of the Mandarin's goons, is looking for him, and she ends up facing off against Tony in a diner. And okay, here's my problem with the extremist thing. How fucking powerful is this? Because we got guys who can survive compulsion blasts to the fucking face, yet this one lady gets killed by a fucking exploding microwave and then gets flung out. I feel like she would be able to survive that. Survive the explosion.
I think that's one of the biggest problems of this movie is that they don't make it clear
how powerful this stuff is. They don't even say that, I had to take a double dose or something. If they just said that or whatever, just...
I guess you have to give 1,000 or 10,000% to kill.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much damage you had, because... I'll just say this right now, the people who are being infected are people who were amputees of war. So, and she lost an arm, so I guess just losing an arm makes you strong, but not super strong, so...
And she attacks Tony when Tony's meeting up with the mother of Davis, who thinks he's fucking dead. And Tony tells her, "Miss, your son is not dead. I think he caused the bomb. I think he caused the explosion." Or he says something like that. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but... and yes, they are eating fucking pizza. And these are fucking veterans, and I'll get to that later, which is something I really liked. Really like to hate, to be honest, in the best ways. But let's see what happens next. He leaves the kid behind. Why? Because we're connected.
Oh yeah, I love that. Again, I love that scene where he's telling the audience, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
It's not like they've always done that in the past.
No, but a lot of movies that do incorporate a little kid character, they shoehorn them in The kid stays his distance.
Presto, more food and drinks. I will agree with BC here. He was just telling me that it's a shame that kid didn't really go anywhere, didn't really become anybody or anything, but he will be coming back in Avengers 4.
Seriously?
Yep, I looked it up. He's coming back, so it'll be good to see him. He's probably going to be like a teenager with a shotgun. I got a shotgun.
Actually, I would have said maybe they'll make him like this universal version of Iron Lad or something.
I think what happens next is I think either it's what happens with Iron Patriot while Tony's meeting up with that computer dude.
Well, Tony, he meets this dude who's like a big fanboy and shit, and it's funny and stuff, and we get like a nice cameo of Stan Lee looking at very attractive women. You know, he's he's the judge for a beauty pageant. But yeah, Tony Stark, he hacks a few computers and stuff. He finds out that he's like, oh, so AIM is working for the Mandarin. And
Dun dun dun.
What's been going on? Tony's been Pepper's been hanging out with the scientist lady, Maya, sorry, and then Killian shows up and he's like the master and stuff again, keeping the illusion that that the Mandarin's in charge. Oops, spoilers there. Tony he contacts Rhodey. He has to get a password out of Rhodey, and Rhodey says War Machine rocks something. And then Tony Stark even emphasized that, yep, War Machine's way better than Iron Patriot. So Tony goes to find the Mandarin's base, which is in Florida. Which he could not believe, really, he's in Florida this whole fucking time. And while that's been going on, Rhodey has been trying to also find a Mandarin's location. And it turns out it's not. It's just some sweatshop that he finds, and he helps. And he's trying to be nice, Iron Patriot, on the job. And then
Sweatshop? You mean where those women are knitting?
Yeah, it seemed to be something like that, because apparently they weren't they were being held prisoner or something. But yeah, he's Iron Patriot on the job. But then we meet another Mandarin, another extremist guard or Mandarin guard, whatever you want to call him. They knock him out. They take his suit, they take Rhodey too. And then Tony Stark reveals the big twist that before this, I should bring this up because again, this was kind of weird. How Tony Stark was able to kind of get over his PTSD, though honestly, you could debate me on this one. It looks like with Captain America, Captain America Civil War, and Infinity War kind of dived a little bit into that, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Tony Stark kind of easily gets over his PTSD in this film, but luckily that's not the case. But yeah, he makes new stuff. He makes bombs out of Christmas decorations, to just remind you, this is Christmas, motherfucker. He makes a shot glove, which is actually something that can actually be made. Seriously, I'm wondering how many people actually try to make these things. He goes through the Mandarin's, fortress, and he encounters the Mandarin, and he's a fraud. He is just an actor named Trevor, who had plastic surgery, and he was a drug addicted, rejected actor from Hollywood. And he reveals and we get the plan. And again, this is where I do not know how to feel about this. On one hand, it really sucks that we were promised the Mandarin. We were going to get an actual comic accurate Mandarin, or at least closer to the accuracy, since obviously he wasn't Chinese and he wasn't a son of Genghis Khan. But he was very close to the comics. So I'm thinking maybe we're going to get that Mandarin, but we don't. We don't get that Mandarin. So the closest thing we have at the Mandarin right now is that one. And then later on it was revealed to us that the guy from Iron Man 1 was the Mandarin. But on the other hand, the plan that they think about is actually kind of ingenious and very devious. But on the other hand, the plan is very ingenious it is pretty evil. Where like he is both using, amputees as guinea pigs.
Well, that's just the thing. Let's face it. This is one of the things I
Yeah,
most liked about this movie. Those veterans are scum.
Yeah. Well, like it's kind of implied that like these guys have been rejected and stuff, and they didn't get the treatment they needed. So,
But that's
they kind of got messed up.
That's what I kind of like to hate about them is that they're so fucking selfish.
Yeah, but
they don't care. These are fucking veterans who served their country and are now for days now have been committing terrorist attack after terrorist attack.
They're not even, well, like that's the thing. They're not even terrorist attacks. They're accidents that they're just covering up as terrorist attacks because they're using, like, again, that's another thing. They're using America's fear of terrorism on to protect their own hinds. Like they're using that against them, which is actually what the Mandarin was about. Originally, the Mandarin was kind of based off those elements. So, seeing that happen in here is, so again, that's ingenious, but at the same time, like, and Trevor himself is such a freaking idiot. Like, why even, like, I get getting an actor to play the role and stuff, but why get someone so freaking incompetent and so easily persuasive to tell the truth? Like, Trevor doesn't really have to do much, Tony doesn't have to do much to get Trevor to tell him everything that he needs to know. Dude, you got, like, or sorry, yeah. Yeah, you got it. But yeah, like it just feels ridiculous, and nothing against Ben Kingsley. He's a great actor, and again, when he was playing the character himself, that was a very convincing moment. But when he plays Trevor, he's funny, but it just hurts the movie more than anything. And it really pissed off Iron Man fans that we didn't get the Mandarin, though. To be fair, the Mandarin's always gone through alterations. I mean, in the animated series, he was a white guy named Arnold Brock, who for some reason turned green and gave himself a Fu Manchu for some reason. And then in Armor Adventures, he's a teenager who is like angry at his dad and like wearing Shogun armor, or not Shogun armor, that's Japanese. But he's wearing this armor. He's like wearing armor to cover his face, which is a cool design. But yeah, it just felt weird. And then we find out that the whole time that Killian was the Mandarin, and we even get him wearing, and we later see that he has Chinese dragon tattoos and stuff. Which again is a reference, which I guess is supposed to be a reference to Fing Fang Foom, which I also wanted in this movie.
It was the white man all along. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Or as Doug puts it, and this was great in his vlog review, so who's the real mastermind behind all this? Another asshole in a suit! Yeah. Oh my god, where do these guys keep coming from? Was Loki really the only good villain you had?
Yeah, and this is always, and it just really kind of bugged me and stuff. Again, I'm debating, it's really hard, it's a real big debate on this. Where like, it's again like, and I don't want to get too deep into this and repeat myself, but yeah, it's just really weird. After that, Rhodey, he loses his suit, and Tony is like being talked down, which everyone's refers to as the Mr. Incredible syndrome moment, which everyone's talked about, even like how it should have ended. Talked about that scene that it's very much like The Incredibles, where it's like
because Tony was somehow able to be instantly knocked out, by the Davis guy.
Yep, and then we have, but yeah, he talks about some stuff, and he even brings up, like. Yeah, when a dude with a giant hammer falls out of the sky, Celti's kind of dead, which, yeah, by this point, trying to be, more secretive and trying to be a hush-hush, yeah, like, this film, I think, was also trying to tell us that, look, we're going to do some more crazier stuff on the way soon, because knowing what happens, we do go through some crazier moments. But yeah, Tony Stark, after he leaves, we find out that his next big plan is he's going to kidnap the president by using Rhodey's armor. And yeah, like they go, they go off, they start their plan and stuff. Tony Stark gets out of there. We leave that fight where Tony Stark's like slowly getting the bits of armor because the kid's having problems. Or not to the kid. Well, turns out the armor's having problems getting out of there. Tony Stark has the fight. We have that fight moment where one of the henchmen's like, "Okay, I'm out of here. I don't like these guys are so weird." which is an actual, which is funny. I always love those ones. Hell, the show Luke Cage actually had that too, where after Luke takes out like these henchmen at a bar, at a diner, the guy just looks at them. I don't even like these guys. He just leaves. But yeah, so Tony Stark, he gets his suit back. He gets Rhodey out of there. Like, they contact the vice president, and we get to the reveal of he's actually working for the Mandarin. And and I will say the reason being is actually understandable. The guy has the ability to regrow limbs, and his daughter is an amputee, and he wants her to walk again.
That's a heartbreaking moment right there. I mean, I hate the guy,
but you feel bad for him.
I feel really bad for him. I feel really bad for the kid.
Yeah,
she has.
Yeah, consider her dad.
She has no idea what shit her dad is pulling off to help her.
Yeah, and it's really sad right there.
I know it sounds harsh, but when he gets his just desserts in the end, I hope he gets it in front of his daughter. So his daughter sees him being dragged away.
I don't think I think they show him get arrested. I don't think that happens, but
call me harsh, but that'd be
So Tony. So yeah, after that we have like this big rescue mission, and then we find out Tony's not actually in the armor, which some people didn't like. I actually like that scene. I mean, it's still there was still danger because the people could have died, but for some reason, like fans were not happy with it. But whatever, I liked it. And I liked that they actually took more advantage of the remote control aspect of the armor. Because it's freaking remote control. Of course, Tony would probably do that at some point. So after that, Tony and Rhodey, they go off. They go to the Roxxon, which is a real thing in the Marvel Universe. Roxxon's actually a big part of the Marvel Universe. It's connected to characters like Cloak and Dagger. In the Ultimate Universe, it's connected to Miles Morales. And several other big moments in the Marvel Universe as well. Hell, I think at one point in the Thor run, Roxxon was run by some Minotaur or whatever. So afterwards, they go in, they plan to save everyone. Tony calls in backup. Everyone thinks it's the Avengers, but in the trailer it reveals no, it's a bunch of Iron Man armor. And I will say each armor looks kind of cool. I love the design for each and every single one of them. I like that there was thought point put into each one. Like we have a space armor, which is really cool, which granted fans are pissed off because they thought it was going to lead to a ending scene with him meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I don't even know how it. Okay, I get being disappointed about that, but I don't know how that would work, knowing what would happen in Age of Ultron, since that was already planned out. We have Heartbreaker, which I think the design was kind of based off of one of the Ultimate suits. I forget what they called this Ultimate suit, but not the one that we saw in the beginning of the Ultimate Universe. It was like an armor that had a sunken-in chest area, but Heartbreaker kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, Heartbreaker looked awesome. Igor, which is like this turtle shell looking one, which for a while I thought was Hulkbuster, but apparently no, it's just something called Igor. And they show the uniqueness of each armor. It's a really cool fight scene. Tony Stark wears each armor. Everyone except Rhodey gets to fight because Tony even says the suits only go for him.
I love how Tony says target those with extremis and exterminate with extreme prejudice.
Yeah.
Because again, those veterans are fucking scum.
Yeah, these guys have just lost. Any sympathy.
They've utterly disgraced themselves, and
and technically they've been allowing people. They've actually been allowing people to explode, which is almost it's almost similar to a suicide bombing. So that's even worse. Before I forget, while that's been going on, Pepper got infected with the extremist stuff, which they kind of hint that it's unstable, Tony ends up facing off H guy, different armor. We even get the Silver Centurion armor, which is really cool.
But it's too bad Maya couldn't be there.
Because Maya's dead. Yeah, she gets shot and stuff.
Yeah, sorry we forgot to mention that because. As much as I like Rebecca Hall, and I do like this...
She's just there for exposition. She's just there to explain...
I do like this character, but rewatching this, I'm like... She barely had a fucking point.
She had no reason to be there. The only reason she was there was just to introduce Extremis. and you could easily they could have done something more with her. Hell, I
Yeah,
would even
she was
take
putting innocent lives in danger for her fucking experiments.
Yeah, and it looked like
she wanted to help people.
And it looked like she had a case for herself. Like she was bringing up how there are certain because I remember there was a moment where she talked about how certain scientists weren't sure about their inventions and what they were creating and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but they never go deeper into it, which I feel like that would have been great for her if she was the main villain. If she was a character who was. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she believes that for science to progress, you need to you gotta cause some shit to happen.
Which the lady was the Mandarin the entire time.
Well,
that might have actually been better than the stupid shit they pulled off.
That won't be the first time that happened, because the Iron Man animated film did that too.
Which animated film?
The very first one, the Invincible Iron Man.
So, I did like Maya's character. Before rewatching this, thinking back on it, I'm like, I really want to see Rebecca Hall's character again, because it was tragic. Because she was a tragic character. Even though now I sort of know better, I still think she was a tragic character because, she was just really extreme.
She had potential, that's the problem.
She was desperate. She was very desperate to make extremists succeed, even if it meant putting numerous innocent lives in danger.
Yep. But yeah,
And it was here's another thing I forgot to mention, is that Maya had the formula that Tony gave her, so this is essentially his fault that extremists worked in the first place.
Yeah, and pretty much, it leads to this. Yeah,
and I do like the moment where Tony says, "I wake up with a woman who still has her soul. You used to have ideals and this and that."
Yeah, it's a great scene.
And she's willing to she's willing to sacrifice herself. And Killian is shocked at first, but then he just laughs it off, going like,
yeah, I don't care.
And kills her, and even Tony's moved by it. Tony is really distraught by her death, and says, "You're a maniac. You're insane."
Yeah, and then after that we have a whole thing where Tony, during the fight with Killian, and this is actually a really good fight scene too. This is actually a really damn good fight where Tony Stark is literally throwing different armors at him, and he's trying to take him on while also trying to save Pepper. And at one point she falls, and then we think Pepper is dead.
And Tony, I love this moment where Tony is fucking pissed off.
Yeah, and he's like
play some dramatic music, some charge music. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and then Killian is like, you didn't deserve her, and Tony's like, and you didn't either. And
no, he says, you're right about that. I didn't deserve her, but here's where you're wrong. She was already perfect.
Well, first he said she could have been perfect and stuff, and then we lead to this really great moment where the Iron Man armor that was we believe were destroyed. I forget what Mark armor it was, but
isn't that like Mark 15? Yeah, something like that. Mark 42.
Yeah, Mark 42 shows up and it's flying. It's going. And Tony Stark and. Yeah, it leads to that really ridiculous joke where it falls apart, which I'm like, okay. And then it
works.
It works because it works in half capacity. So then he throws it. Instead of putting it on himself, he throws it at Killian. Killian's about to explode, and then boom, it's gone. And then we think at one point Killian's head's gonna be in the helmet. Tony Stark's looking at it, being like, it doesn't. And then the helmet opens up. It's not Killian. He's not in there. He's like, oh, thank goodness. He didn't want to see a dead guy.
I didn't think that at all. I thought it was just him looking at himself burning. Tony.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was going to imply that his head's in there.
No, not Killian, just Tony himself, metaphorical.
Yeah, I know what they're going. I know what you mean, but that's what I was getting out of the scene. I'm like, but yeah, then it turns out he's not dead, and then we just get that awesome moment of him. And I can't deny it, it's a great moment where he's like, no more secrets, no more false faces. You are the Mandarin, you get, I am the Mandarin! And
it's funny because when he screams that, I'm like, no, you're not!
Yeah, and then Pepper knocks.
But it's still a great moment. Yeah. It actually looks kind of scary, kind of terrifying.
Well, it's creepy because it's that really cool moment where because I don't know why, but those moments are awesome when a villain can just get up like that. And it's just even though it's clear that he's going to get his, he's clearly easily defeated, he's like still going like that. He's just gone to that mental breakdown. Like he is fully just crazy.
Did we mention that he had extremis in himself to begin with?
No, we did not. Again, this
clearly he did it to himself, not just to make himself a lot more powerful,
but also to improve his body because they do mention in the film
they clearly imply he's disabled, and even Pepper acknowledges, "Wow, you."
Well, yeah, the idea of like, yeah, he looks better and stuff.
You got more healthy.
Yeah, and then, speaking of Pepper, she shows up, she has extremis, she kicks his ass.
That was fucking awesome.
And then he explodes.
Tony, I got nothing.
Yeah, like, it's a really good scene. And then after that, we have this whole thing where Tony, in a gesture of love, destroys the armor, is kind of showing that he's gonna, like, he's not going to let Iron Man consume him. He even gets rid of the arc reactor, which I feel like would have been a way better story, because, like, really? You could have just gotten rid of it this whole fucking time? Then why the hell do you have that on you?
Don't worry, Bizarro Critic. The best part is we're not retconning this ending at all.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't. They even mention it in Civil War, man. Like, they talk about how stupid... Like, they do mention in Civil War about how Tony Stark, like, he isn't, like... Because a lot of fans were wondering about this ending of, like, was this really Tony Stark retiring the role? But the way they were trying to play it off was
they probably could have.
Yeah, they could have, but the way that they're trying to do it is that Tony Stark's not retiring Iron Man, but he's not making Iron Man his life. He's gonna, like, he wants his life to be more focused on himself and Pepper and, starting a family together, because, though they don't get married until Homecoming, we'll get into that later. We have a whole thing where it looks like things are going to get better. And then, we have, like, the end credit scene, and you think it might be something important, like, is it going to lead to Age of Ultron, since Ultron does dive more into that, into Tony wanting to just go home to his go home and start a family. But instead, it's just him narrating again, and we finally find out who he's been talking to this whole time. And it's Bruce Banner, who has been sleeping the whole time. Like, he actually slept through the entire story because he didn't want to hear this, and, like, and it leads to my favorite scene where, like, Bruce is like, "I'm not that kind of doctor." He's like, I don't have that one thing that, they need. And he's like, "What's that?" "Temperament." Like, he's just, like, I love that scene where Bruce is trying to tell him, "Look, Tony, I'm not that kind of doctor, man." And I do love that moment of, like, which also kind of shows that Tony... how much Tony and Bruce trusted each other, that Tony would actually talk about this type of stuff with him.
Yeah.
And showing that, they've been working together and stuff, which dives into Ultron and the Iron Legion that they created. But
it's Christmas, take them to church.
Yep.
And of course, because this is the last Iron Man movie, they have all these clips from the past 3 films compiled in the end credits. And that was Iron Man 3. Last chance for pizza and soda.
Okay.
Now, as we finish off our pizza and soda, final thoughts, BC, or at least a summary of your thoughts.
Like I said, I'm very mixed with this film. On one hand, it is very rushed. It feels like there's some stuff that wasn't really thought up of. They kind of do like these weird...
There are 3 years. There are 3 fucking years between Iron Man 2 and 3. Yeah. You think they would give it their all? Yeah, and, like, I was kind of hoping for more of a confrontation with the 10 Rings, since we've been building up to these guys for a long time now. But at the one hand, again, I do like the concept of Killian's plan. I do think the whole thing with Tony and his PTSD was actually done very well up till the end. The whole thing with Tony, like, having to learn to get over, kind of trying to set Iron Man aside and try to focus on his own life and the people that he loves. And I like the fact that they do show that the aftermath, like, we're not just going to, ignore we're just going to ignore the Avengers movie, because, because again, crap like that happening, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that happened. And that ended up becoming a big staple for all of Marvel. I've talked about this in the Avengers review, but they would talk about this. They would talk about New York a lot, and they still talk about New York. Along with Sokovia and what happened in Civil War. Hell, I'm pretty sure I'm wondering when they're going to start talking about, the fact that everyone in the Marvel Universe, half the Marvel Universe is literally gone.
But yeah, I do like this film. I don't love it, but I think it's okay. Like, you know, I can like sit back and watch this film, but for a conclusion, I'm sorry, it does not work. And you know, hopefully, and they haven't talked. They might do a fourth film. They did a short film with Trevor where they reveal that, you know, Trevor, like, you know, there is another Mandarin out there, a real Mandarin who worked for the Ten Rings, and they allude that we might see him someday, and hopefully we will. Hopefully we will see him someday. I don't know if we're ever going to see him in this movie, in another Iron Man film, but maybe like in a future Avengers film if Tony's not dead or whatever, because again, it's very unclear what's happening to his character after the fourth film. It has been very clear that Steve Rogers ain't coming back, because there's been talks that he is going to there will be a new Captain America, but I'll talk about that when we get to Captain America. But yeah, that's what I gotta say. Spirit?
So to start off the bat, this movie has one of the most absolutely unnecessary plot twists in history. For years, I wanted to see the Mandarin in a movie, the fucking Mandarin. And that's not what I got. I was somewhat traumatized by this stupid shit when we were coming back from the movie that day, back in 2013. I was like, oh my fucking god. It was such a fucking letdown, and it was, and the whole villain, while he is good and all, he's really good and all, it just feels like the same villain you see in any ordinary action film or superhero action film with an evil business suit guy.
Sorry, real quick. I want you to let you know, in the comics, he's not even a villain. In fact, he felt so guilty about the extremist thing, he shot himself in the face.
So there's that. I mean, God, I guess it was bad enough that they didn't have a Middle Eastern dude or an Asian guy playing the Mandarin. And during the first half of the movie, they build up the Mandarin really well. You don't see much of him, but you feel his presence, and you can see what a major threat he's becoming. And again, while I do admit the whole challenging the Mandarin on TV thing's pretty stupid for Tony to do. Again, it's not like it's much of a shock as where he lives, that everybody knows since everybody knows where he lives, and Doug Walker should have caught on to that, or just other people who have reviewed this film should have caught on to that. But yeah, I like this whole.
Maybe they just thought everyone was so blacked out drunk they just forgot or something.
I like this whole journey of self-discovery and stuff, because he was rushing into things and whatnot. And I like the Trevor character, and hell, I like the Killian character, but it would have been a lot better if Killian was just the Mandarin's servant, the Mandarin's right-hand man. And, Ben Kingsley would have had more dialogue, more screen time as the Mandarin, instead of pulling this stupid shit off, because, it was almost like they were deliberately trying to piss off Iron Man fans, Marvel fans in general, just to get more traction and money and shit. Or, I don't think I'm using that right, at least more attention. And, they say they're so proud because this is the MCU version of the Mandarin. You should have just made the Mandarin. Not exactly the same. I mean, for fuck's sake, he's not Chinese, and Mandarin is one of the essential Chinese languages, not languages, like writings, between Mandarin and the other one, which I always forget. It's a major Chinese writing, and it was an appropriate enough name for a Chinese supervillain. I barely know anything about the Mandarin from the comics, just that he's Iron Man's ultimate nemesis, and they have a long history together. I don't know much more about him from cartoons and movies and such, but I was really
and even then, the cartoons and movies that you've been seeing, the cartoons movie that you see always alter him up. Yep. In fact, the only one that's actually made him again, animated series did not make him Asian. In the comic, in the animated series, his real name is Arnold Brock. He's a white guy, and again, he turns green and has a Fu Manchu for some reason and goes by the name Mandarin. Then we have Armored Adventures, where a Mandarin is a teenager, and his name is Gene Khan, which Mandarin's last name is Khan. I think his name's Gene, but. Yeah, and he's an angry kid who's like wearing armor and stuff. And then we have the animated film that came out, prior to live action movies. And I'll just say this: he is an evil spirit that needs to possess the body of the woman of his family. I'm not kidding. Like, that's how it goes. Like, the reason why, like, it's a really interesting story there, where like. He knows that if a man, he decides to go for the women of his family to possess their bodies and stuff. It's really crazy, but whatever. Mandarin is... They've done different variations of Mandarin, so unfortunately we just have not gotten a comic accurate version. In fact, I don't know if we've ever actually had a comic accurate version of the Mandarin in any series. I don't think even in Avengers... Earth Mightiest Heroes... They did that.
What do they do there?
I forget. I don't think they even had Mandarin in there. They had a lot of Iron Man villains, and they had Crimson Dynamo, and they had a variation on Whiplash. But I don't think Mandarin was there. They even had Technovore, which was really cool because not many people use Technovore. Like, what do you think of the film as an Avengers tie-in, though? Like, because again,
I do like the whole PTSD concept. I think it's done really well, similar to BC here. I guess they touched on it enough. I wish Maya's character had done more. She severely lacked in character. She only appeared in like a few scenes, barely had any screen time. You barely got to know her. She barely did anything. But again, I still felt bad for her that she's reduced herself to this person desperate to get her idea off the ground, fully realized and whatnot. Because this technically all began with her projects of Extremis and all. And Killian pretty much exploited it for his own nefarious purposes. And Killian was a really good bad guy. If they had not done the whole Mandarin scapegoat and made it another villain, maybe even an exclusive villain for this movie, in which Killian was the real mastermind and all, this could have worked a lot better. But they didn't do that. They had to pull the stupid Mandarin stuff off, which really, really pisses me the fuck off. As it did for pretty much all other Iron Man fans and Marvel fans. This movie pretty much bitch slaps you in the face. This bitch slaps you in the face.
Here's one thing that we both kind of been ignoring: the fact that this is like the only time we've seen AIM. Which I feel like
it's a fucking shame. This is the only movie, and they're such a big deal in the comics.
Yeah, like hell. Currently, AIM's gone through so much stuff in the comics. Like first it was a villain group. Then it became like it actually got taken over by the Avengers, so it became Avengers Idea Mechanics. Seriously, look it up. It's really weird. But it was a really cool story there. And yeah, I kind of wish that they did more with AIM. Like, why not do anything with that? Why not have AIM be be more the main focus? And maybe have the leaders of AIM. I'm good. Have the leaders of AIM. Like, why not bring in MODOK or even if you need like a brawler, maybe bring in agents of the people who work for AIM, like the Ghost or the Grim Reaper. Hell, I would allude to Wonder Man.
That's right. The Wonder Woman, the counterpart, and the fucking...
No, he is not. I am tired of people saying that he is. He is not.
I'm just saying by name alone. I don't know anything about this character.
Yeah, well, he's not. Okay, he's a dude who who does not have no relation toward Wonder Woman. You want Wonder Woman related, you go for the Princess of Power.
So apart from obviously the stupid Mandarin shit and severe lack of character for Maya and others, most of the film for the most part is done really well. I mean, I wish there was more time in development for Tony, Pepper, and Rhodey themselves, especially before the whole Stark mansion is destroyed by the end of the first 35 minutes or so. And there was more they could have done with all this craziness with the Mandarin and all. And I really liked the veteran bad guys who were serving Killian. Like I said, they were scum, and they got what they deserved.
Yeah. Also, there was one deleted scene that I freaking love, where like the guy is just like this dude's trying to this guy when he's wearing the Iron Patriot armor, and they think he's Rhodey. They're like, I'm a big fan and stuff. And he won't shut up, and the guy's like, hey, look at Thor. He's like, what? Just knocks him down. Which I'm like,
I'll have to look that up, but yeah, for the most part, it's really good, and the climax is a great climax. You know, there's just certain things about the context of it, of course, that's just flat out ridiculous, but it still was a great climax with all these extremist maniacs against this whole fucking Iron Man army, and Iron Man himself battling that with Killian, and then having this resolution sort of thing at the very end during the last couple or so minutes, which I wish had been followed upon more consistently in future films, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But for the most part, it was a good enough conclusion. I mean, to summarize all the problems is basically to say that this movie really jumped some sharks. It really jumped some sharks. I think I said before in the Iron Man 2 vlog review we did that they skipped over what they did in Iron Man 2 they probably could have saved for a third and fourth film. This is similar. What they did here they could have saved for like a sixth or seventh Iron Man film, not a fucking third one, especially with the plot twists they pull off. But for the most part, it's fine. We can't drag on this much longer because we don't have so much time to make the other vlogs we want for today that we'll release later. So for me, my final verdict for Iron Man 3 is a solid B, like an 86%, around there. And
I'll give this about like a B plus. It had like there are like when it doesn't like.
So
again,
you did like it better than I did.
Yeah, in this case I did. But like when it came to this, like again, when it did good, it did really good. You know what Shane Black did. You know the stuff he did do, it was amazing. The problem is that when he did crap, he did serious crap.
He knows more.
Oh, sorry.
He knows more than I do.
Professional. Sorry, that was professional. But yeah, so next time we will be diving into the Dark World, where he'll be taking the runs on this one in Thor: The Dark World.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah.
And that's our Iron Man 3 review. Hopefully we may or may not see some more Iron Man movies in the future before Robert Downey Jr.'s full retirement for really reals.
Yeah, because it's, again, not consistent.
And that's the Iron Man Trilogy. And that was Iron Man 3. Really good, could have been a lot better. Definitely the weakest of the fucking Iron Man films, but
yeah, I'll still give it a 2, really.
It's still as good as it is. And he gave his first verdict, so all is well. See you in the next video, guys. Oh, and of course, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Thank you.
Yeah.